Greetings, this is Ron Smalek, and I'm reading Catching Fire. This is the second book in the Hunger Games trilogy by Suzanne Collins. I'm reading the book and giving you my thoughts on each chapter in groups of two. Hope you enjoy. Alright, so chapter 13 starts off with Katniss running hysterically and screaming after the announcement that she'll have to go back into the games. Now, I'm actually pretty happy about this because the games themselves are really what I want to see the most in these books. Obviously, I feel for her, and she spends the next night, I think, just hiding out, getting away from everybody. They do come looking for her, but then when she comes back, they continue on. The President Snow appears on TV and he reads a card that tells what the special rules will be for this quarter quell. And supposedly these cards were written 75 years ago when the games were created, so he's just pulling the next one. But I tend to agree with Katniss's suspicion that there's no way it was so perfect for the Capitol that this card was actually written by President Snow. So basically, what happens is Peeta and Haymitch, or Katniss suspects Peeta and Haymitch of planning who's going to volunteer to keep her safe, even if the other one gets chosen in the reaping. And Katniss deals with, this frustration by actually getting drunk with Haymitch, which I thought was an interesting turn of events, and it made me wonder what the drinking age is in this futuristic world, because I think she says she's never been drunk before, but it doesn't say she's never had a drink, and obviously we haven't seen her drinking up till now. I also worry a little bit because this book is obviously having a big influence on kids, or at least exposing them to different concepts through literature, and I'm hoping that kids are going to read these books and be inspired to go out and do activities outdoors, camping, light survival stuff, and more sports and training. I hope that the violence that we saw was cast in enough of a light that no one tries attributing real world violence to this book. And now also teenage drinking is also not. Suzanne Collins, the author, does a really good job of describing like what I think a hangover would feel like, and vomiting and the disgustingness that Katniss feels afterwards. So hopefully that has an effect. Peeta actually, continues to surprise me, his character. He disposes of all the liquor. We find out that Ripper, who was mentioned in a previous chapter, is a she, and that basically she's the one who sells liquor kind of on the black market, I guess. And Peeta has threatened to turn her in if she sells any more liquor to Haymitch or Katniss. So the three of them train together, and they perform research on the old victors from the past games, I should say. This was where it starts getting pretty interesting for me, and Gale even comes around and teaches them all how to create snares, which I thought was good. Katniss actually, somewhere in this chapter, explicitly tells herself, and thus us, the audience, that she chose Gale over Peeta by deciding to stay. And I think that is an important moment. Like I said before, I think in the last chapter, this whole love triangle thing is not being handled in a soap opera fashion. I really like the way this is going. Okay, so obviously Katniss is chosen. Her name is the only envelope in the jar. And then Haymitch is chosen, and as we suspected, Peeta then volunteers to go instead of Haymitch. Now, I guess Haymitch at this point could have volunteered to go as well, and then I don't know what the tiebreaker would be, but I'm fairly certain that if Peeta had been drawn, Haymitch would have volunteered. So then we would have had the opposite effect. But in any case, Katniss and Peeta are very quickly whisked away on the train without the usual amount of ceremony at this part in the reaping procedure. In fact, she doesn't get to say goodbye to anyone. Chapter 14, they're on the train, and Katniss is basically mentally letting go of everyone. She didn't get to say goodbye, but she trusts that they know what she would have said. and she's just got to let them go and focus on what's happening. It's a very different Katniss than we saw at this point in the first book. And there's actually a quote. I talked about quotes that were underlined in my electronic version. Um, and here's one that I actually enjoyed quite a bit that I wanted to just read to you. So, real rebels don't put a secret symbol on something as durable as jewelry. They put it on a wafer of bread that can be eaten in a second if necessary. I thought this was pretty intelligent for Katniss to come up with. We find out that 59 out of the last 75 games victors are still alive, and this time going into the games, they have the opportunity to know all of those victors, what their fighting styles were, what their survival styles were, who they are today. Um, the one person that they don't have information on is Hamish, but they do have the tape from the Quarter Quell, and they're a little awkward about watching it because he's been so quiet about it, and even though he's from the same district, but they think about it and like it's the only tape they have that has footage from a Quell on there, so they need to watch it to see what to expect. Um, they also find out sort of in a little bit of a flashback that the Mockingjay pin that was given to Katniss by Madge, and Madge said it was her aunt's. Well, her aunt is actually Maisie Donner. If you remember, Maisie Donner was the female who went into the games with Hamish. And of course, now Katniss wonders, like, oh, I have this bigger connection to Madge than I thought I did. And that pin really meant a lot more to Madge's mom that Katniss was wearing it. Did Hamish kill Madge? So they basically have to watch this tape now to find out. So I thought the most interesting thing about, well, the first interesting thing about Hamish's tape was that he goes straight into the cornucopia at the start of the game, which is exactly what he told them not to do because of the bloodbath that occurs. Um, so I thought that was interesting, and he seems fast enough to have got out of there unharmed. We find out that the world that they were put in, everything is poison around them, the plants, the animals. In fact, I got a little chuckle out of Hamish being attacked by squirrels and butterflies. And then I had an even bigger chuckle at the comical thought of Maisie using the poison from the plants in a blowgun. I was like, how would she even know to use a blowgun having grown up in District 12? Certainly they didn't train her on that. Um, that 50-year Quarter Quell actually gets even more crazy when a volcano erupts in the arena. And then we find out something that I guess it's fine, but I kind of was hoping this wouldn't be the way it went. But Hamish kills two of the careers with a knife in basically a physical battle, and then Maisie shows up and saves him from the third. And I'll get to in a minute why that kind of disappointed me a little bit. But Hamish and Maisie team up for a while, which sort of echoes to Peeta and Katniss. But then they do split up again. And when they do, Hamish is near the cliffs, and Maisie goes back into a hedge maze where she is very shortly attacked and killed by what I believe were flamingos. And this part actually right here probably is my favorite part because it gives me this mental image that they're basically fighting through a game inspired, at least in part, by Alice in Wonderland. So Hamish is left with the female from District 1, and they have a gruesome, gory battle. Like I think it even said at one point he's holding his intestines in as they're falling out, and she's got a missing eye. And here's where this is really the only time that we're explicitly told that Hamish uses his wits in the games, like directly, where he figures out that the force field surrounding the games, if you throw something over the edge, it will bounce back up because the force field generator's down there. And so when an axe goes flying over the cliff, he ducks, and the axe comes back up and hits and kills the girl from District 1, which I'm sure will look interesting in the movie. But I was slightly disappointed because Hamish basically wins because of his physical skills, and then at the end, this little bit of luck. He didn't really outsmart anyone to the degree that I was hoping he would. Like Foxface was really sneaky and smart, and Hamish, you saw in the first book, was like negotiating for them off screen, and like I really thought that he was going to do more of a mind game to win, but it turns out the way it's described, he just seemed like an almost a normal competitor that got lucky in the end. And I didn't really see anything in the description that we had um, that stood out as far as something he did that he regretted. Like he didn't kill Maisley. I didn't see anything that really reinforced the fact that he won't sleep at night, that he only sleeps during the day. But maybe we haven't heard the last of his time in the Quarter Quell. Actually, as they're finishing the tape, Hamish walks in, and now everyone knows that they're all in the same place as to what Hamish did in the Quarter Quell.